You know, accreditation is important for schools, school systems, because it really provides a framework for processes of schooling. It helps set the standards for what schools need to aspire to. It is an independent look for community stakeholders to see that someone has actually come in and validated that the programs are good, that the curriculum, the processes of teaching and learning, leadership, all of these things that research is very clear on, that if you want to be a successful school, you will have these things in place. So accreditation provides that framework. It sets the bar for schools to say, yes, we do these things. This is how we set up our learning environment so that schools can provide what students need to be successful. But in addition, accreditation is the age-old method for colleges, universities to know that schools have provided a quality education for those students. So there are many, in fact, most universities want students to be graduating from accredited schools where they have faith that there's credibility behind the courses that they took. In addition, there are many scholarships that are tied to being from an accredited school. In fact, I have many instances of where students have lost their scholarships because the scholarship giver found out that they were not from an accredited school. Additionally, the transfer of credits from one school to another, very critical that students be from an accredited school so that when they do transfer from one school to another, that those credits go with them. Another piece is accredited schools can offer AP classes from College Board. Without being an accredited school, you cannot give those AP courses. It's just one more piece of credibility behind it. You can also not give the SAT, so you cannot be a testing center for those unless you are an accredited school. So accreditation is just that independent third-party look. It sets the standards for quality schools. It allows students to show to the world that the schooling that they've had bears quality, the knowledge that they've gained, that someone has looked at. So it really meets a lot of criteria that the public sets up. It upholds the public trust, bottom line. The DoDEA community it's a very highly mobile community. So when you know that your children are not going to be staying in the same school and they are going to be transferring, that you have a belief that those children will be able to take that learning and apply it in the next school where they are, because there has been someone looking at the processes of schooling to make sure that the students are the focus, the learning is paramount, and that it's happening. The whole student achievement is a huge focus with our accreditation. So for the DoDEA community, they need that stamp of approval so that they have faith. You know, they have other things that they're working on. They want someone to go in and ensure that those schools are of the highest quality, because it's a captive audience. They don't get a choice in where their children attend school. And so that's even more reason why DoDEA needs that stamp of approval for the schools where the military has placed those families. The process for accreditation is really, you look at a huge internal review process that a school goes through, where they actually have an inside reflection on what their processes of schooling are. They look at student achievement. They make sure that they are taking into account what their parents and community and students, what everyone is telling them about how satisfied they may be with what's happening, or if changes need to be made. So they have a huge internal review getting ready for the visit. Then when the staff comes and the team comes to visit with the staff, they go into classrooms, they observe the learning environment, they look at what students are learning, they observe, they have interviews with parents, they have interviews with teachers, staff, students. So they collect a lot of information. They look for patterns and themes. They look for what's happening. They look for school climate. They look at leadership. We look at continuous improvement, which is a huge piece, because we're not content with just simply compliance issues, but we're always looking to see that a school is seeking to do better. Always improve what you can. And so the team leaves with a report. And when they leave with a report for the school, there are required actions that a school needs to work on. And that's because sometimes it's a compliance issue, but sometimes it's just to help them get better and reach higher to do a better job. So they work on those over time, and it's a 5-year cycle. So it's a really continuous piece of working on processes of schooling, how to increase student achievement, how to be the best school you can be, so that in the end, the students are the beneficiaries. At the school level, everyone owns that responsibility, because it is a school-wide effort that makes a school the best it can be. The research is very clear. It does not just fall on the principal, does not just fall on the teachers, does not just fall on the parents or the students. There are roles and responsibilities for each segment in the schooling process. And the research that shows for example, the impact of leadership on student achievement, there is a correlation there. It isn't just what happens in the classroom, although that is where the rubber meets the road, certainly, but it is the effect that each group has on the end result, and that is, are the students prepared for the next step that they have to take? Who's been watching that they're prepared? Not just are they proficient at the level where they are, but how do you know that being proficient at that level is going to prepare them for the next level? Someone is watching that that's happening. And so it's everyone working together that bears that responsibility. The community strategic plan that DoDEA has is extremely important, all the way down to the classroom level, because it sets the vision for the schools, for the staff, for the students to understand where are they headed, what are they trying to accomplish, and the connection between the vision, the community strategic plan, and what they do at the school level has everything to do with expectations. If I'm a new staff member and I come into a DoDEA school, or if I'm a team member, I look at what is the community strategic plan telling me, where do they want the students to be eventually, what goal have they set, what vision are they articulating. For example, it has always been it has very much impressed me that the community strategic plan, the vision or the mission that headquarters had set up, was that they wanted students to be very much, what is the word I'm looking for? Energized. They wanted them to be very much a part of the learning process, engaged in their learning. They wanted all of this to be how they want the students to receive the learning and to participate in it. So therefore, if I know that and I walk into a classroom, I would expect to see those type of strategies being utilized. I wouldn't expect to see just a strict direct instruction lecture, although that's very important, but I would expect to see a mix. And so if the community strategic plan tells me some things, then I take that, and from that I drive it into the classroom. Communication is just absolutely essential, non-negotiable. People, everyone who's involved from all the way up, from students, parents, teachers, staff, leadership, command, they all have to understand that through communication, what the expectations are, what role they play in it, why it's important, and that it helps keep the school of the highest quality, which everyone wants. Without that communication, we all operate in the dark. We don't know what the procedures are. We don't even know why it's important. We don't know how it works. We don't know any of those things. So communication is really the vehicle to ensure that all of these things keep thriving, that they keep moving forward. It's the best way to get people on board so that they own it, they feel a part of it, they're proud of it, and that's how you keep it healthy. I have worked with, and I do work with, all of the schools. I work with the Accreditation Commission, and I look at reports. I go into a lot of schools, and I would like to say that I am so proud of the DoDEA schools. They are so top-notch. They are some of the best schools in the world that we accredit. We have over 30,000 schools, and I cannot say enough about the quality of the DoDEA schools. I know that the direction is there. I know that the support is there. And even though Zama High School is a rare happening for DoDEA to even have a school on probation, I saw swift action. I saw support being given, direction, leadership, and I know that they're going to find their way out of it. And I know that they'll join their place back with the rest of the DoDEA schools that are unbelievably, incredibly high in quality.